I never thought I'd be writing this on Reddit, but I need to get this out somewhere. Throwaway account for obvious reasons. This is going to be long, so I'll break it into parts. I am not looking for advice. It's too late for that. I just need people to understand what happened. Maybe warn others who think they can save someone. Spoiler alert. You can't save anyone who doesn't want to be saved. 3 years ago, I was working as a freelance journalist doing a piece on alternative spiritual communities in Northern California. That's where I met Sarah. She was 26, I was 32. She lived in what they called a intentional community, but what I quickly realized was a textbook cult, complete isolation, financial control, sexual exploitation disguised as spiritual awakening. The leader was a guy named Marcus, mid-50s, classic narcissistic guru type. Had about 15 followers, mostly young women from broken homes. Sarah had been there for 4 years after dropping out of college following her parents' messy divorce. She was his special student, which I later learned meant she was sharing his bed and handling his finances. When I interviewed her, something in her eyes told me she wanted out. She was intelligent, articulate, but there was this hollow quality to her voice when she talked about Marcus and their sacred work. She kept glancing toward the main house where he lived, like she was afraid he was listening. I extended my stay from 3 days to 2 weeks. Professional interest became personal concern, then something deeper. Sarah would sneak out to meet me at a coffee shop in town, always looking over her shoulder. She'd talk about her life before, her dreams of becoming a teacher, her love of classical music, how she used to paint. It was like watching someone remember they were human. The breaking point came when I saw the bruises on her wrists during our last coffee meeting. She tried to hide them, made excuses about intensive spiritual practices, but I'd seen enough abuse cases in my reporting to know better. That night, I made a decision that would change both our lives forever. I told her I could help her leave. I had contacts, lawyers who specialized in cult extraction, safe houses, resources. She broke down crying right there in the coffee shop, sobbing like a dam had burst. She whispered, yes, through her tears. Getting Sarah out wasn't like in the movies. No dramatic midnight escape. It took 3 weeks of careful planning. I contacted a lawyer named Janet who specialized in cult cases. Apparently there are lawyers who do nothing but this, which tells you something about how common this shit is. The legal situation was complicated. Sarah wasn't being held against her will technically, but she signed over her inheritance, about $80,000 from her grandmother, to the community. Marcus had her convinced it was a spiritual donation, but Janet called it financial abuse and fraud. We had to be surgical about it. Sarah was scared Marcus would disappear her if he suspected anything, and given that 2 former members had simply vanished over the years, this wasn't paranoia. The plan was simple. Sarah would go into town for supplies like normal, but instead of coming back, she'd meet me at a predetermined location. The day came. I was parked outside the hardware store at 2 p.m., engine running, watching the road. She was supposed to be there at 2:15. By 2:30, I was sure Marcus had figured it out. By 2:45, I was planning which authorities to call first. Then I saw her walking down the street, not running, just walking normally like she was in a trance. She got in the car and said 4 words. Drive. Don't look back. We drove straight to San Francisco. 6 hours of silence. Sarah stared out the window the entire time, occasionally crying but never making a sound. I tried to make conversation, ask how she was feeling, but she was completely dissociated. Janet had warned me about this. Cult survivors often shut down completely when they first leave. We got her into a safe house, basically a halfway house for people escaping high control groups. Sarah would stay there for 2 months while Janet worked on getting her money back and while Sarah started therapy with a specialist named Dr. Kim who dealt with cult trauma. I visited every day, brought her books, her favorite coffee, just sat with her. For the first month, she barely spoke. She, D have panic attacks when anyone mentioned Marcus or the community. She was convinced he was coming for her, that she, D betrayed her spiritual family, that she was going to hell for leaving. But slowly, so slowly, Sarah started coming back to herself. She began painting again. These dark, beautiful pieces full of cages and birds and shadows. She started laughing at my stupid jokes. She remembered who she used to be before Marcus got his hooks in her. 6 months later, she moved into her own apartment. A year later, we were dating officially. The year after Sarah moved out of the safe house was the best year of my life. I know that sounds fucked up given what comes next, but I need to be honest about this part too. Sarah was luminous. That's the only word for it. Like watching someone come back from the dead. She got a job at a local art supply store, started taking community college classes to finish her degree. She, D call me every morning just to say good morning, text me photos of paintings she was working on, leave little notes in my apartment when she stayed over. We took things slow. Dr. Kim had been clear that rushing into another dependent relationship could be dangerous for her recovery. But Sarah seemed so healthy, so grateful, so normal. She, D talk about her future plans, about wanting to teach art to kids someday, about how she never wanted to take her freedom for granted again. I fell hard, not just for who she was, but for who I was when I was with her. I was the guy who saved her. I was her hero. When she looked at me, I saw myself reflected as this noble, selfless person who, D risked everything to rescue someone in need. It was intoxicating. The proposal happened on the anniversary of her escape. I took her back to that same coffee shop where she, D first told me she wanted to leave. When I got down on one knee, she started crying before I even got the words out. Yes, she kept saying, yes, yes, yes. People in the coffee shop applauded. It was perfect. Our wedding was small. Just a few friends, Dr. Kim, Janet the lawyer. Sarah had no family to invite. Marcus had made sure of that years ago. She looked stunning in a simple white dress we picked out together. When she said her vows about how I'd given her a second chance at life, there wasn't a dry eye in the place. For 18 months, we were that couple everyone envied. Sarah was flourishing. She, gotten into a 4-year university on a partial scholarship. Her art was getting noticed in local galleries. I was getting better freelance assignments, working on a book about cult recovery. We bought a little house with a studio space for her painting. She, still have bad days. Nightmares about Marcus, panic attacks in crowded places. Moments where she, go completely quiet and unreachable. But they were getting rarer. Dr. Kim said she was making exceptional progress. Sarah would joke that she was like a plant that had been kept in the dark too long and was finally getting sunlight. I should have seen the signs. The way she, get distant sometimes, staring at nothing. How she, started asking me questions about purpose and meaning again. The way she, sometimes flinch when I touched her unexpectedly, like she was somewhere else entirely. But I was so proud of us, of what we, built together. I thought we were the success story. I thought love had conquered trauma. I thought I, saved her completely. I was such a fucking idiot. It was a Tuesday morning in March. Sarah had left for her 9 a.m. art history class, forgotten her laptop. She called asking me to email her professor about an assignment extension. Just log into my email. The password is our anniversary date. I, never been in her email before. We, always respected each other's privacy. Seemed important given what she, been through with Marcus monitoring everything. But she, given me permission, so I logged in. The first thing I saw was an email from 3 days ago. Sender. Marcus enlightened. Subject line. Your true path awaits. My blood went cold. I sat there staring at the screen for probably 5 minutes before I could even click on it. Maybe it was spam. Maybe he, somehow gotten her email and was harassing her. Maybe she, been getting these and deleting them and hadn't, told me because she didn't, want to worry me. I opened it. My beloved Sarah, your light grows stronger each day, just as we always knew it would. The mundane world has served its purpose. It has shown you what emptiness looks like so you can appreciate the fullness of what we shared. I feel your spirit calling out to mine across the distance. You know where you belong. You know who truly sees your soul. Come home to yourself. Come home to us. Your devoted teacher, M. I scrolled down. There was an entire thread. Her responses. Sarah, 3 days ago. Marcus, I've been thinking about what you said about purpose. About how I am just playing house instead of fulfilling my true calling. Sometimes I feel so lost in this ordinary life. Marcus, 2 days ago. The cage may be gilded, but it is still a cage. You were meant for transcendence, not suburban mediocrity. He saved your body, but I saved to be before Marcus got his hooks in her. 6 months later. Sarah, 2 days ago. I dream about the community sometimes. Not the bad parts, but the feeling of belonging to something greater than myself. Of having a mission that mattered. I kept scrolling. The emails went back 4 months. 4 months. While I was working on my book about her recovery, while we were planning our future, while she was lying in my arms telling me how grateful she was having secret conversations with her abuser. But the worst part wasn't that she was talking to him. The worst part was reading her words. How she described our life as suffocating normalcy. How she called me well-meaning but spiritually asleep. How she wrote that living with me felt like wearing someone else's clothes that don't quite fit. The latest email was from yesterday. Marcus, I am in Portland now. Close enough to see you whenever you ready to stop pretending. You contacted me, remember? Your heart knows the truth even when your mind resists. Sarah had contacted him first. Back in November, right after Thanksgiving. Right after she sat at our dinner table and talked about how thankful she was for her new life. Her first email to him. Marcus, I know I shouldn't be writing this, but I feel empty. Like I am sleepwalking through someone else's life. You were the first person who ever made me feel like I had a purpose. I don't know what's wrong with me. I printed everything, all 47 emails. Then I sat in my kitchen reading them over and over until Sarah came home at 2 p.m. Sarah walked in at 2:15, humming some song, carrying coffee from our favorite place. She kissed my cheek like she had 1,000 times before. Thanks for emailing Professor Martinez, babe. You, a lifesaver. I was sitting at the kitchen table with the printed emails spread out in front of me. She saw them before I said a word. The color drained from her face, but she didn't deny it. Didn't act surprised. Just stood there holding her coffee cup like it was the only thing keeping her upright. How long have you been reading my email? Not, I can explain, or, it's not what it looks like. Just anger that I invaded her privacy. 4 months, Sarah. You've been talking to him for 4 months. She sat down across from me, still not denying anything. You don't understand. Then explain it to me. Explain how the man who sexually abused you, who isolated you from your family, who stole your money, is suddenly your spiritual advisor again. He never abused me. Her voice was quiet but firm. You wanted to believe that because it made your rescue story more dramatic. Marcus opened my mind to possibilities you can't even imagine. I felt like I was falling through space. Sarah, you had bruises. You were terrified of him. You cried for weeks after we got you out. I cried because I was grieving. Because I lost my purpose, my community, my teacher. You saw trauma where there was just transition. She was rewriting history in real time. The woman who begged me to help her escape was now claiming she never needed rescuing. So what is this then? I held up one of her emails. What's this about feeling empty and suffocated? For the first time, she looked ashamed. I don't know. I love you, I do. But life with you is so quiet, so ordinary. Marcus helped me understand that I am meant for something greater than grocery shopping and mortgage payments. Greater like what? Being his sex slave again? Don't reduce it to that. Now she was angry. What Marcus and I had was sacred. It was about transcendence, about touching something divine. You gave me safety, but he gave me meaning. I stared at this woman I thought I knew. I thought I saved. I thought I married. So what happens now? You go back to him? I don't know. She was crying now, but it felt manipulative, calculated. I never meant for you to find out like this. I thought maybe I could figure out what I wanted first. You've been figuring it out for 4 months while lying to my face every single day. I wasn't lying. I was trying to be who you needed me to be. But I can't pretend anymore. I can't keep living this small life when I know there's something bigger waiting for me. The next 3 hours were the worst of my life. Sarah packed a bag while I sat there trying to understand how everything I thought I knew was a lie. She called Marcus while I was in the bathroom. He was driving down from Portland to pick her up. I need time to think, she said, standing by the door with her suitcase. Maybe this is just something I need to get out of my system. If you walk out that door, don't come back. She looked at me for a long moment. You were a good husband. You gave me exactly what you thought I needed. But you never asked what I actually wanted. Then she was gone. Marcus picked her up. In a white van. Of course it was a white van. I watched from the window like some pathetic stalker as she got in. She didn't look back at the house. Not once. For 2 weeks, I didn't leave the house except to buy whiskey. I called in sick to every assignment. Ignored calls from friends. Lived on takeout and alcohol. I kept reading those emails over and over, trying to find some clue I missed, some sign that she hadn't meant it. Dr. Kim called me after Sarah missed 3 appointments. I told her everything. Her response? I am not entirely surprised. Sarah never fully processed her trauma. She romanticized her experience with Marcus because confronting the reality would have meant accepting she'd been victimized. Some people would rather return to familiar pain than face unfamiliar healing. That should have helped. It didn't, because the rational explanation didn't change the fact that everything I believed about our relationship, about love, about goodness being rewarded, was bullshit. Janet the lawyer called too. Apparently Sarah had contacted her about filing for divorce. She wanted to make things simple, and wouldn't be asking for anything. How generous. She was taking nothing from our marriage except my ability to trust another human being. I started having panic attacks. Real ones, not the dramatic movie kind. I'd be grocery shopping and suddenly couldn't breathe. Convinced everyone was looking at me. Knowing I was the idiot who thought he saved someone who never wanted saving. I'd wake up at 3 a.m. checking my phone, hoping for some message from Sarah saying she made a mistake. The worst part was how it poisoned every memory. Our wedding day? She was probably thinking about Marcus during our vows. Our anniversary dinner last year? She emailed Marcus that same week about feeling spiritually starved. Every I love you, every grateful look, every moment I felt like her hero. All of it was performance. 3 weeks after she left, I got a single text. I am sorry it happened this way. You deserved better than lies. But I am where I need to be now. Please don't try to contact me. I wrote back a novel. Deleted it. Wrote another one. Deleted that too. Finally sent. I hope you find whatever you looking for. She never responded. A month later, I ran into someone who knew someone in the old community. Sarah was back, but things were different now. Marcus had other, special students. Sarah was just another member, no longer his primary focus. The person said she looked thin, distant, but insisted she was exactly where she belonged. That's when it hit me. She hadn't gone back because Marcus was offering her something better than what we had. She'd gone back because she was addicted to the trauma bond, to the cycle of love and pain that had defined her for years. I'd given her stability, safety, genuine love, but she'd mistaken intensity for intimacy, chaos for passion. I wasn't her husband. I was her rehab, and like most addicts, she relapsed the moment the craving got too strong. It's been 8 months since Sarah left. The divorce was finalized last week. She never showed up to court. I am not going to lie and say I am better, or that they moved on, or any of that bullshit people say when they want a neat ending. What I will say is that they stopped trying to save people. Dr. Kim suggested I start seeing someone myself after my third panic attack in her waiting room. My therapist, Dr. Rodriguez, spent the first 2 months just getting me to stop obsessively researching cult psychology. Turns out when your worldview implodes, some people become conspiracy theorists. Others become experts on the thing that destroyed them. I was doing the latter. The hardest thing to accept wasn't that Sarah left. It was that I'd been in love with my own narrative more than I'd been in love with her. I was the hero. She was the victim I saved. We were proof that love conquers all. When she told me I never asked what she actually wanted, she was right. I decided what she needed and convinced myself it was the same thing. That doesn't make what she did okay. Lying for months, rewriting our entire history, going back to someone who objectively harmed her. That's still fucked up. But my therapist helped me see that my need to be her savior was its own kind of control. I rescued her from Marcus's cage and built her a prettier one. The book I was writing about cult recovery, I scrapped it. Turns out I didn't understand cult recovery at all. Instead, I am working on something about the psychology of rescuers. People who are addicted to saving others because it makes them feel valuable. It's harder to write because I have to be honest about my own shit instead of just pointing at the bad guys. I sold the house. Too many memories, and I realized. I bought it more as a symbol of our success story than because either of us actually wanted to live there. I am renting a small apartment downtown, close to my therapist and far from anything that reminds me of playing house. Last month, Janet called me. Sarah had contacted her again, asking about some legal issue with the community's finances. Apparently Marcus was being investigated for tax evasion, and several members were facing legal problems. Sarah wanted to know if she could be held liable for things that happened before she left the first time. I told Janet not to give me updates anymore. Whatever's happening to Sarah now, it's not my problem to solve. That sounds cold, and maybe it is. But they learned that you can save someone who doesn't want to be saved. And you definitely can save someone who's addicted to being damaged. The only person I can save is myself. I am dating again, sort of. Nothing serious. Just learning how to be with someone without needing to fix them. It's weird, getting to know people who have their shit together, who don't need me to rescue them from anything worse than a bad day at work. Sometimes I catch myself feeling useless because there's no crisis to solve, no one to save. That's how fucked up I was. Sarah texted me 2 weeks ago. I saw your book announcement online. I am proud of you. I deleted it without responding. Not out of anger. I am mostly past that, but because I recognize the pattern. She's probably having problems with Marcus again, testing the waters to see if I am still available to be her backup plan. The old me would have responded immediately, would have seen it as a chance to save her again. The new me knows better. To everyone who's read this whole thing, if you read trying to save someone, ask yourself why. If it's because you love them, great. If it's because you need to be needed, because being their hero makes you feel valuable, because their gratitude fills some hole in you, stop. You not helping them, and you definitely not helping yourself. People have to save themselves. The best you can do is be there when they ready to do the work. But you can do the work for them, and you can want their recovery more than they do. I learned that the hard way. Don't make my mistake. Thank you very much for watching this story. Subscribe to the channel and like it. I try very hard to create interesting stories for you that you will not find on YouTube.